So I roll into the shop and looking at these going, I should really get to those ugly beat to death hunks of shit. And I was like, I got this 661 build I've been meaning to get back to. Got a Wiseco piston on it. Got a few other goodies to play with. I thought, you know what? I've already done the machine work, and before I get started, I figured I'd whoa up. I've already cleaned up this lower transfer area, relieved a little bit, and see where we can go with this. This is got a lot more options with this piston because the skirts are so much wider. On standard 2-ring, the pin placement's right here, so you really can't widen but just a whisper on the exhaust port. So this will give a lot of room to play with a bigger exhaust port. So I'm looking forward to this build, and it sure does seem like it's going to be a lot more fun than that. Not nearly as juicy as a oil thread, but we're going to have some fun with this one. This bastard's going to rip. Okay, she's all back together. I had one last thing to put on, and that was the muffler cover, and I thought, maybe I got something in the mail. If y'all didn't catch it, you missed out. Gordy put on a Black Friday sale, and those were, I think, 20% off, and they got here quick. So, anyway, we're going to run this not with 404 chain. I went in and swapped out a Stihl tip, or Stihl 3/8 tip, and I've got brand new chain. We've reground into hexa. So no, this isn't the unobtainium one. This is one that I made. That's an Oregon chain. Anyway, again, thanks Gordy Wiseco Saws. Nothing sounds better than a big saw with a bark box. Okay, before we get too deep into what's wrong here, I want to stress before everybody jumps in and says, oh, it's the electronics, I hate M-tronic saws and auto-tune saws and everything else. Both of these carburetors, the issue is in the body of the carburetor itself. Has nothing to do with the electronics that are on here. This is just a good old-fashioned hiccup in the body of the carburetor. So let's move along and we'll talk some more about it. All right, so I got this piece of shit back together, and you said, gee, Rich, why would you have the diagnostic kit hooked up to this? Well, I bought this as a part saw that was mostly complete, and the carburetor that was on it, now the piston was scored pretty bad. I ended up putting a new top end on it, and the port work and everything else. And when I first fired it up, it seemed like it was really lean on the low side. So that low circuit for your idle and the first little bit of your throttle pickup, it seemed like it was a little constricted. I put a kit in it, that didn't help. And I assumed I had an issue because it didn't seem like when I was running it that the auto tune was actually, or excuse me, the M-tronic system was actually making any adjustments. So I picked up a used carburetor off of eBay, and I'm like, okay, maybe I've got throttle position sensor problem. Maybe there's a temperature sensor in here as well. Maybe I got some wiring issue. So anyway, I threw my spare carburetor on here, and it also has a low side problem, even worse. So I start switching parts back and forth and, checking solenoids. At the end of the day, I've still got the exact same, this one's worse than this one. This one actually runs, but it does run a little bit hot. And with this brand new cylinder and everything I've done to this and a Wiseco piston, I'm not going to tear that up. I've got a brand hammer new carburetor on the way, so this one will run like it's supposed to. But if anybody, these are the newest version of the 661 carburetors. This one is a WJ140, and that one is as well. So I don't know if there's, and this could have just been, just crappy ass fuel. There's got to be a check valve in here somewhere, and maybe that crappy ass fuel fouled the carburetor up. I don't know, but I've got two different problems that are pretty much the same. I've gone back and rechecked my work. Everything's been vacuum and pressure tested. It's pretty damn frustrating. All my electronics and everything. Of course, the diagnostic kit tells me that the saw is perfectly fine. When I ran it through a calibration and it went back to go idle, it wouldn't stay idling and it would shut off. It had asked me to perform it again. It didn't tell me there was anything wrong, just said, perform the test again, and I got the same results. So again, with that restriction in the low circuit of the carburetor, we'll put the brakes on this. In the meantime, my bench is an absolute disaster. I'm going to grab a shovel and put all this shit off to the side and go work on something else. But if you could hear the excitement in my voice earlier in this video, I mean, I was really ready to go out and run this thing. She should run like a scalded dog, but new carbs on the way, and to be continued. Thanks, y'all.